Hey everybody, welcome into The Spread, Nesson.com's football picks podcast. I'm Nesson.com's Mike Cole, joined as always by Ricky Doyle on my right, and somewhat joined by Andre Kachaturian on the phone. Andre, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm right here. How are you, Mike?
I'm well, thanks. Andre,
this is the best you've ever looked.
Yeah.
In this show,
Andre's already set sail for greener pastures, gone home for Thanksgiving, which is the reason we are here today, to give thanks, to celebrate what a tremendous holiday.
We're very appreciative on this episode.
We are. We're going to give thanks for having 3 games. This is a special edition of The Spread, the Thanksgiving-only edition, where we'll go through all 3 Thanksgiving Day games, and we'll just get in, get out, move on, and make sure you check out Part 2 or the actual spread, the Week 13 edition of The Spread, which will be going up as well. So without further ado, let's get to Thursday's game. We got 3 of them, as always, or at least in the last few years. We'll start, as we always do, Thursday afternoon in the Motor City, almost at the Windy City, where the Detroit Lions will host the friendly foes from the Windy City, the Chicago Bears. Bears come in as 3-point favorites in this one. Last week, Chicago got back on track with a win over the Giants. Meanwhile, Detroit went to Washington and lost to the Redskins in a game that was as ugly as you might imagine. So this is not a game with a lot of playoff implications here. Jeff Driscoll showed up on the injury report Monday. Credit to anyone if you could name the Lions' backup quarterback. So that could be a thing. You know, you and I, Ricky, we've gone through this in the office a few times, looking at the murderer's row of Lions quarterbacks over the years. So if we get to add to that, I mean, either way we're adding to that, but Jeff Driscoll versus Mitch Trubisky is not something you're going to be looking forward to on Thanksgiving necessarily. But like I said, Bears 3-point favorites on the road. Who do you got here, Rick?
No, and that quarterback uncertainty is the reason I have to side with the Bears here. I went into this with a very open mind too. Like I almost wanted to find a reason to take the Lions. Just maybe it was a hunch or something, but I can't do it given the quarterback situation. Even with Jeff Driscoll, now that he showed up on the injury report, it steers me away even more. I mean, they're turning to the XFL in the hopes of potentially bringing somebody in.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's one of the most Lions things of all time is getting turned down by the XFL for Josh Johnson.
So I mean, I guess in stacking these 2 teams against each other, the one thing that you can sort of hang your hat on is the defensive upside with the Bears going up against that uncertainty of the quarterback position for Detroit. Whether it's run defense, pass defense, in coverage. Listen, Chicago isn't as explosive defensively as they were last season, but it's still a fairly solid unit all the way around. Khalil Mack getting back on the stat sheet last week, showing some signs of life there. And ultimately, I think it's going to come down to whether the Bears can run the ball. I mean, if they can run the ball, which they should be able to do against this Lions front, 28th in run defense per Pro Football Focus, if they're able to do that, take some pressure off Mitch Trubisky, not really have him to. I guess what I like probably more than anything about this game is I would probably err on the side of taking the under because I don't think a lot of points are going to be scored. But if I was to take a team in this, I would lean towards the Bears, just given that I feel like they're the more known quantity at this point.
Last I checked, the total I have it right now at 39, and it looks like 3/4 of the bets right now coming in on the Bears. Andre,
this seems like a high teens game, like like a 19-16 or something.
God help us.
You might get a wacky score on this one too.
Andre, who do you like?
Yeah, I think my suggestion to everybody on Thanksgiving Day is to, rather than watch this game, either go watch your high school teams play on Thanksgiving Day, or maybe go play your own pickup game at the local field or a local park. And get another 5-on-5 action going. If you want to do a 6-on-6 with the pass rusher, that works as well. I think that'll be more exciting than this game. But I'm going to take the Lions getting points at home in the divisional game. Lions tend to keep games close. 10 of their 11 games have been decided by one possession. I know they have that weird quarterback situation, but it looks like Driscoll is just a tight hamstring. He was limited in practice. You can play with a tight hamstring. It's the NFL. Their backup, their third stringer is a guy named David Blah.
David Blah.
From Purdue.
Purdue, yeah.
Danny Ettling's backup at some point.
Boilermakers.
So if Danny Etling is better than him, then I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's not good.
They're going to go with Driscoll, I feel like. And I think they'll end up covering. Both of these teams play a lot of close games. The Bears, 7 of their 11 games have been one possession. So, again, low-scoring game. I'm going to take the points, especially with the Lions being at home.
Yeah, I'll take the points too, actually. The Lions, you go back to, was it week 10 these two teams played in Chicago. That was Driscoll's first game. That was the game where Stafford was the late scratch. What was it, Sunday morning or Saturday night? It was very early that we learned that, very late in the week that we learned that Driscoll was going to be playing. They, like I said, they lost that game, but they outgained the Bears by 130 yards in that game. So I think they're probably, if Driscoll is ready to go, they're going to feel better with him at quarterback this time around than they did in a pinch that first time around. You look at Chicago, one injury that really stands out to me, the right tackle, Bobby Massey. He's played 94% of the snaps this season. He's got a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss this one. It looks like they're going to turn to the backup, Cornelius Lucas. He played.
Very festive name.
No kidding. I think it was either week 3 or week 4. He was in there playing right tackle. He played 63 snaps. Pro Football Focus gave him a 47.2 pass blocking grade. He allowed 3 quarterback pressures and hurries. That's not great. I mean, Ricky, too, that defense isn't great. And I've hammered the Lions defense all year, but they do have some guys who can generate a pass rush there, so that's something to keep in mind. I also wonder whether Chicago's going to be able to get big plays. As I mentioned, they were outgained in that game in Week 10, and Detroit has been, despite, I think they give up it's like a volume thing, not necessarily big plays. According to Sharp Football, they've been pretty good against in limiting those big plays and explosive plays. They're 7th in the league. But they have struggled with the passing. They've given up 28th fewest or most, 4th most big passing plays. Chicago doesn't really throw the ball. They don't have a whole lot of big play potential. At least I don't think so. So that's something to keep in mind. Only 5 teams have fewer 25-plus yard pass plays than Chicago. Also, it's a big thing here. Detroit, you just keep Chicago off the board in the third quarter, you're going to have a pretty good chance. This is an insane stat I saw at the Chicago Tribune. The Bears have scored on their initial third quarter possession in 5 straight games. They come out at halftime and they score. So that's 5 touchdowns in those 5 games. They scored 9 touchdowns total. If you just get off the field in that first drive and start the third down or start the third quarter, you're in a good spot. Detroit ranks 11th in third quarter points allowed, so maybe there's something there. I don't know. And also, last thing, if it's going to be a low-scoring game, if it's going to be a close game, as both the line and the total suggest, give me the better kicker. You got Matt Prater, who's made 20 of 24 kicks this year, 26 of 27 from PATs or in PATs, and he's 6 of 7 from 50 yards or more. So even if they're not moving the ball, if you get them in somewhat field goal range, you're gonna have a chance. Whereas Eddie Pinheiro has been just terrible. That's been well documented. So if it's gonna be a low-scoring, low-pointage game, I'll take the points here. So.
One thing to note is that Detroit has had a lead in all 11 of its games this season.
That's not good.
And it's not good from the standpoint that they're actually one of just 3 teams in NFL history to hold the lead during each of their first 11 games and win as few as 3 of them.
That's insane.
So not good, obviously. But if you're a bettor going into this game and you're looking for a reason to take Detroit, that's one thing you can hang your hat on. Maybe the path to victory there is to get out, establish the run early, start hot, and force Trubisky to mount a comeback. In which case, I don't like the Bears' chances if they're going to fall behind early.
I also, the Bears 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games. You guys are right. That offense is just too bad, especially if they fall behind and Trubisky has to throw the ball a lot. I don't think that's it's a good recipe for success.
No, they have had some success coming from behind recently, but I think that's more of just statistical anomalies. One thing I think it is interesting, it's worth noting. Thanksgiving, the Lions play every year on Thanksgiving. They've been pretty bad, for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's a real myth.
But again, I mean, the Lions have been bad, so what do you expect? But they have lost their last 2, including last year. They lost to Chicago. They're 4-11 straight up, 5-10 against the spread in the last 15 Thanksgiving games. I don't think that means anything. I just like talking about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I went into that game with an open mind, and maybe you guys have talked me into it.
There you
I'm
go.
still leaning Bears right now, but it could change by the time. I could have a big Wednesday.
Sure,
of
course.
Go on the Thursday and say, let's get weird. Give me the Lions.
I just think the Bears are just always overvalued in these games. They had a 6.5-point spread against the Giants, and I took the Bears last week. They're just always overvalued.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you're seeing that in their record against the spread this year. Tied for the worst mark in the NFL.
They're 3-8 against the spread.
Yeah.
Worst record.
So something to keep in mind. All right, let's go late Thursday afternoon. Buffalo at Dallas. A nice. Ricky, do you want to take it away? Is Dallas going down here?
Oh man, that's my favorite part of this week. We get to be re-exposed to that video.
Dallas going down. It's as good as it gets. So the Bills here coming off a win at home against Denver. The Bills have won 2 straight. Dallas, meanwhile, went to New England and played a competitive game, but as we probably all expected, and I should have expected with my pick last week, coaching and execution was a huge bugaboo for the Cowboys. That being said, they're 6.5-point favorites here against the Bills, a Bills team that looks destined for the playoffs. Ricky, where do you see this one falling?
I think you're going to get some heavy money on the Bills in this one, and I like the Cowboys to bounce back. I think the short turnaround for them might be the best case scenario for them. You know, try and get rid of the bad taste they have in their mouths, not really have to think too much about the most recent loss. And I look at this Bills team, and the 8-3 record. Obviously, you look at the personnel on defense; it's solid, but it is just I can't help but wonder how deceptive that record is. I mean, 7 of the teams they've defeated this year have a combined 19-58 record. We've mentioned this narrative with a few teams really this year about what the level of competition has been, but theirs has been just terrible. 6 of those 19 wins too by one team being the Tennessee Titans, who are just sort of a middle of the pack. But more importantly, of those 7 teams, 6 rank in the bottom 11 of Pro Football Focus's offense grades. So this is a good defense, but it's also feasting on terrible offenses. And I just remember this. I had to pull this tweet back up from several weeks ago that Warren Sharp had mentioned after the blowout loss to the Eagles, that the Bills at that point in time, that was Week 8, so on the heels of Week 8, they were 0-8 the last 2 years against teams with an NFL average or better offense, losing by an average score of 29-9. Since that point, they've lost to the Browns in Week 10, so I guess that's sort of the definition of an NFL average offense. So I just think in this situation, going up against a Cowboys offense that until this past week against New England was one of the best in the NFL, I think the Bills are going to have their hands full. I think it's going to be problematic. I think it's going to be. I'll take the Cowboys at home. Plays to their strengths. They're going to be able to run the ball. If there's one thing the Bills' defense is susceptible, it's to giving up yards on the ground. So I think Dallas wins this game, and I think they roll.
I 100% agree. Just to piggyback what you just said, Buffalo 23rd graded rush defense on Pro Football Focus. Obviously, Dallas, very strong rushing team. They're going to expose the Bills. Everything you said, I wanted to say, Ricky. You just took everything out of my mouth.
No.
I don't have much more to add.
The week off.
I'll just say Dallas, again, even despite that loss against New England, they did cover the spread on the road in a sloppy weather game, and still number 1 in yards per play differential, number 1 in yards per play, 8th in yards allowed per play. They're 6-5, but that's not a 6-5 team, guys. That's a really good football team in Dallas. They're gonna do. You don't want to face them in the playoffs. And if you really think about it, that blocked punt that led to the N'Keal Harry touchdown, you take that out of the game.
Yeah, but
I mean, what?
No, go ahead. Yeah, you're right.
It's just it's a freak block punt that the Patriots always do. I mean, that's one team that's always gonna get blocked punts is the Patriots because they're the Patriots. That was the most Patriots football game I've ever seen. Rainy weather, blocked punt leads to a touchdown. A couple of tripping calls that weren't called. Just a very Patriots game.
It was, which is.
I also think Buffalo's in trouble. They got the Cowboys, Ravens, Steelers, Patriots, and Jets, who are all of a sudden a good team left in their schedule. I don't think the Bills win another game. They're not making the playoffs.
Wow.
Write them out.
Well, I'm taking the Bills, and I feel even better about it after that. I feel even better after your proclamation that they will not win another game. Maybe it'll be this week, and you'll look even dumber. So I guess the Cowboys are the new Chargers. If this is the one you and I are gonna disagree over, because you can sit here and talk about yards per play all you want, and it's a metric that I use as well. But at a certain point, you got to look at it and be like, maybe the coach is a dingus, and that's kind of getting in the way. And I think that's a real issue here. And for the second week in a row, I think it's a pretty big coaching mismatch. I think McDermott is one of the better young coaches in the game. I think he's going to be more prepared than Garrett is. It's a weird spot. It's something that Buffalo obviously isn't used to, whereas Garrett and the Cowboys team has plenty of experience playing this Thursday afternoon game. So that's something to keep in mind. But I look at what Buffalo has been able to do. Some of the things you guys mentioned do give me reason to be a little bit wary of the pick. at least from the Buffalo defensive side of things. But I'm actually starting to buy in on the Bills' offense. I think the move that they made, taking offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and putting him up in the booth as opposed to on the sideline, has kind of opened some things up. I think he's talked about it. Josh Allen has talked about it. They see the game. Daboll sees the game better. He's able to communicate better with Allen in between plays. And so far, we've seen the success that they've had. They had 424 total yards in each game since they made that change. Granted, one of those was against Miami, but they also kind of took it to Denver last week. They're averaging 5.8 yards per play in those 2 games. They're emphasizing play getting at a faster pace, which I think could come in handy against Dallas. A team that likes to get after the passer. If you're going to hurry up, you're going a little more tempo, kind of tire them out. Maybe there's some a reason to believe they'll have success there. I also look at Buffalo, number 2 early down success rate running the ball. Dallas, number 28. Those are Warren Sharp football analytic numbers. So maybe some success on the ground game kind of not slows the game down, but it helps Buffalo win that possession game and just keep within the number. I don't know if they're going to win. I have a hard time believing Josh Allen goes in and beats Dak Prescott on Thanksgiving, but stranger things have happened. And I think you look at too. Yes, the schedule's a huge thing, but Tre'Davious White's been, one of the better cornerbacks in the entire league. Maybe he comes in and it doesn't do the Gilmore role as well as Stephon Gilmore did with Amari Cooper, but it keeps him in check and it kind of takes away some of the big plays there. So I thought this was interesting too. I forget where I saw this, maybe The Athletic. Since Sean McDermott took over in 2017, they've allowed the league low to 43 touchdown passes. Only the Patriots have allowed fewer touchdown passes this year. Again, I think the schedule is a big part of that, but it's a pretty good team. I think they're getting there.
Now, this isn't anything that's tangible, but for whatever reason, it always feels like whenever the Cowboys get to a point where you say definitively, this is all right, time is now to fire Jason Garrett, they sort of respond.
That's true.
I don't know. Maybe that could be my perception, and it's just
it probably is
ignorance.
And it's the exact opposite too. When they have all the hype, they end up crapping the bed.
Yeah. So, also something to keep in mind: Buffalo, the 8th ranked special teams unit according to Pro Football Focus. You guys will never guess, especially after the last week, where Dallas ranks on that list.
Dead last.
Dead last. Yes.
Interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah.
It segues into the next game here.
Well, speaking of the next game, let's go to Thursday night, where the New Orleans Saints are coming off an overtime win against Carolina, head to Atlanta to play the Falcons. Falcons coming off of an embarrassing loss. Just when it looked like Atlanta was starting to get their stuff together, they just get smoked by a Tampa Bay team that tried to give the game away early and often, could not do so. So the Saints come in here as 7-point road favorites on a Thursday night, Thanksgiving in the ATL. Ricky, who do you like?
That by no means was segues into this game, but I'm glad that you took it and ran with it. I was thinking ahead to the Patriots-Texans game. So I just wanted to call myself out on that, but I'm glad that you took that and you took the handoff and brought it to pay dirt. Anyways, as it relates to this actual game, the Saints and the Falcons, this is one I flip-flopped on a few times, but
this is a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going to take the points, though. I'm going to take the Falcons in this. A lot of that stems from the fact that the Saints have some issues along their offensive line, pretty banged up. Teron Armstead out now with an ankle sprain.
The entire left side of the line.
The entire left side's gone. And you're talking about legitimate Pro Bowl talent on the left side, too. So it's not just random starters that you're missing. And this comes just a few weeks after the Falcons hit Drew Brees 11 times, sacked him 6 times. Pass rush wasn't quite there for the Falcons this past week against the Bucs, which obviously hurt them, but prior to that, in addition to the game against the Saints, they also had 5 sacks against the Panthers. So there's been some life there from that pass rush that, for the most part, has been non-existent for 2 seasons now. So, maybe they're able to dial up that pressure this week. I also look at Marshawn Lattimore's sort of dealing with the hamstring issue right ahead of going up against Julio Jones. Still not sure if he's going to play, So it's just there's a litany of issues there, injury-wise, that make me think the Falcons might be able to sneak in the back door here and cover at home. I don't think that the Saints aren't going to kill themselves like they did that last game. I think they committed 12 penalties, 6 of which produced first downs and 4 that extended drives on third and fourth down.
They're a penalized team. Most penalized team in the league now.
So I don't know if you're going to see the Saints hurt themselves to that extent, but another one you factor in the crowd that if the tryptophan doesn't kick in, should be pretty jacked up on Thursday night, so I think the Falcons are going to sneak in there and cover.
We'll mention Julio Jones was got a DNP designation on Monday, so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? But, I mean, Ridley's been fantastic for them, so who knows? Andre, what do you like?
I like the Saints. I mean, look at the last meeting. New Orleans rushed the ball just 11 times in that loss. Maybe don't do that this time. Maybe incorporate the running game a little bit more, especially with the offensive line injuries you talked about, Ricky. Maybe it's a better way to go about in this game. But in 13 of the Falcons' 18 sacks this year have come from 2 games. So, yeah, 6 of those came against Breeze in that game, but I don't know how consistent they can be when clearly, like, their pass rush isn't that strong. Also, they allow 8.2 yards per pass attempt. It's one of the worst in the league. Drew Brees should be able to expose that weak pass defense. The turnover differential, New Orleans +8, Atlanta -8. Falcons don't have much of a running game right now. Devontae Freeman was a big factor in that win a couple of weeks ago. He's banged up. He might not even play. They might have to settle with a guy named Quadri Allison and Brian Hill. You get one guy who has a very generic name in Brian Hill, and another guy with a very exotic name in Quadri Allison. But regardless, I like the Saints in this one. The Saints also allow the third fewest rushing yards. You got a couple backups in there for Atlanta. I think they bottle them up, force Matt Ryan to throw the ball a ton. Matt Ryan, when he throws the ball 40 times or more this season, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. Not good.
This is a tough one. I'm going to go flipping a coin here, basically. I'm taking the Saints. I don't feel great about it, but Andre makes me feel a little bit better with what he said. Give me the revenge game factor. Cam Jordan said earlier this week, we're gunning for Thursday. So he looked pretty fired up. Again, the Julio Jones thing is something that's got me a little weary about taking Atlanta. And I also will point to you this trend that I should have brought up earlier, especially with the Cowboys game, because it applies there too. But since 2003, according to Action Network via the Bet Labs folks, teams favored by 6 or more points on Thanksgiving, 16-3 against the spread. Favorites just in general since 2003, 30-11 against the spread on Thanksgiving. I think the idea there is that it's just generally speaking, the better team wins in adverse situations. A little bit different with New Orleans going on the road here, but I just think this is a game where if the Saints want to be taken seriously as a legitimate NFC contender, you go in and you take care of business, especially coming after a loss. I think there's also a huge coaching mismatch there with Sean Payton versus Dan Quinn. So, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points on the road in prime time.
With offensive line is one of the biggest things I look at when handicapping. And if you're missing the entire left side of your line, that's tough. So, I could see that.
Do you guys think the NFC playoff picture is set?
What?
Do you guys think the NFC playoff picture is set?
Yeah, other than the NFC East, I think it's all set.
It's wild.
It's gonna be
week
stacked
11,
too.
Week 13.
At least there is a lot to be settled still, and I think we'll get into this on the Week 13 edition of the spread as well. I think there's a big game Sunday afternoon, perhaps in Baltimore, that could go a long way in really resetting and reshuffling the top 3 or 4 or 5 seeds even in the NFC. So
and not to tease too much, but the Vikings Seahawks game, that has the potential to be a preview.
That's a massive game. Yeah. So speaking of that, make sure you check out the Week 13 edition of the spread, where we will tackle the 3 biggest games of the weekend that don't take place on Thursday, because we already did that.
Yeah, we did. And I hope everybody has a great
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah.
Should we give our best turkey calls before we get out of here?
Oh!
That's nice. Oh, that's a good one.
I've been working on it. All right. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check out the Week 13 edition of the spread. I'm Mike. That's Ricky. Andre on the phone. We'll see you again next time. Later.